Do you dread the holidays where it seems like everyone has someone special but you? If so, I've got something to share with you. I'm going to give you 5 powerful tips to beat loneliness during any holiday. But first, I wanted to share a personal story. So, a couple of years ago, a younger cousin of mine did a project through his youth group where he had to pretend to be homeless. For 24 hours, he lived on the streets of Washington, D.C. without any food, money, warm clothes, a place to sleep, or family and friends. The purpose of the experiment was to see what it would truly be like to survive as a homeless person. When he thought back about the experience, he said that the most difficult part wasn't the lack of food, a place to sleep, or any extra clothes. Instead, the most difficult part was the lack of acknowledgement from people passing by during those hours. As a homeless person, people didn't look him in the eye or say hello as they walked by him. He talked to them, but they would simply ignore him. And the lack of human connection brought on a devastating loneliness. With the holidays right around the corner, there's a good chance that any loneliness we're experiencing will hit us harder and be felt on a greater scale. If you're watching this, chances are that you're better off than someone living on the streets. But my point in mentioning that story is to call attention to how a lot of us take for granted the amount of human connection that we actually receive on a daily basis, and how tremendously important this connection is to our existence and in feeling good. Loneliness has the ability to make us feel depressed, anxious, overwhelmed, or a mix of those things. It can be something we feel mildly on a day-to-day basis for a multitude of reasons, such as being single, consumed with work, or a little social life. Loneliness can be more acute, resulting from a trauma like the recent passing of a loved one, a breakup, moving, or starting a new job. Losses and life transitions can be especially difficult during this time of year. To completely rid ourselves of these things might be somewhat unrealistic, but my hope is that the tips that I'm about to share with you will make loneliness a little more tolerable as you venture through the holiday season. The first tip I'd like to talk about is looking for exceptions in your day. For many of us, it's easy to become a victim of all or nothing thinking, especially when we're feeling down or overwhelmed. It can be like a dark cloud is hanging over us, and everything we see makes it feel difficult to feel hopeful. We start to overlook the small yet positive and meaningful moments. But by noticing these small moments, it makes a positive difference in our perspectives and in our mood. Looking for the exception to loneliness means we take notice of the times when loneliness isn't occurring, times when we feel some kind of human connection. These might not be so obvious, but something as simple as making eye contact with a stranger or someone being friendly with you. So think of a stranger in the grocery store commenting that they like the same brand of coffee that you're buying, or someone you work with showing you pictures of her grandkids during lunch. We might think we feel lonely because we don't have lots of friends or because we're single, but human connection and acknowledgement in any form can change that for us if we just acknowledge it. The second suggestion I have is to lean into the feelings through journaling or letter writing. I like to tell my clients that instead of avoiding being depressed, do the opposite and lean into the feeling. You can do this by journaling or writing a letter to the person that you've been missing. You might be thinking, what good is it going to do? My father passed away, he can't read the letter. Or I'm not planning on getting back with my significant other, so why would I write him or her a letter? The point is not to send the letter or share the journal entry, but instead to reflect on it and begin to process your feelings related to the loneliness or loss. It makes sense when you're feeling sad or anxious to want to avoid what's really bothering us. But that typically doesn't make it go away. It just festers beneath the surface and adds to the difficult feelings. Because of our humanness, we have the ability to experience an array of emotions. Feeling lonely, depressed, or anxious is just one end of the spectrum. When we go through periods of feeling bad, we can actually grow the most. Oftentimes, we can feel out of control when there's a loss, but purposefully setting aside time to lean into the feelings can provide us with a greater sense of control over our circumstances. This is because it's on our terms and within our planned time frame. Something to note though, although journaling is a good technique for processing feelings and it's beneficial, depending on the circumstances, I might recommend talking with a professional such as myself who can provide feedback and added support. The third tip I have is to track your progress. Just like with any goal we're working on, signs of improvement can fill us with hope and make us feel better. If you're starting to become more conscious of your feelings by journaling, taking another step would be to track your progress. To do this, start by taking what we call a baseline measure to note where you are currently. From there, mark where you are as you go along. For example, the first day you begin to journal, you might be feeling really down. So you might say, I'm managing my feelings of loneliness or depression at a 1 or a 10, where managing 1 is the worst and 10 is the best. You might be at a 1 the first day. Then a couple days later, you might do something that boosts your spirits and say, I think I'm at a 2 or a 3. Sometimes there's a setback after a period of doing better. So don't worry, this is normal. Consistency takes time. Pay attention to where you are and take note of any progress that you're making. Another layer to this is to keep track of what's causing the progression or the setback. This way you can recreate scenarios that lead to positive progress and conversely, avoid scenarios that get in your way. The fourth tip I have is to be open to accepting invitations. I'll sometimes hear a person say they don't have any friends or anything to do, and the next minute I'll see them turning down an invitation. It's normal to feel hesitant or uncomfortable when you're invited to a social activity, especially when you don't know anyone. This can be especially true if you haven't been feeling like yourself lately. But part of overcoming loneliness requires being open to opportunities to heal. This is similar to noting exceptions, like in tip 1, and being more conscious of what's going on around you. There's a possibility of being involved when we accept an invitation to something new. Be it meeting someone new, relating to someone through a shared interest or story, or just breaking out of the monotony of what you've been doing lately. There's a possibility to feel different and to possibly feel better. The fifth and final tip I have is to do guided meditations. Meditation requires stillness of the mind, which doesn't always seem appealing or easy. Sometimes when we experience loss or loneliness, it's difficult to break the cycle or repetitive thoughts we have about the situation. We can ruminate about what went wrong or what we could have done differently. Sometimes the thoughts are racing and it's hard to even pinpoint what we're thinking about entirely. I like suggesting that my clients try guided meditations, which are easily found online for free, because they can be helpful in getting ourselves to refocus our thinking to be more positive, encouraging, and self-nurturing. Guided meditation doesn't have to be an elaborate ceremony or take a lot of time out of your jam-packed day. It can be done in as little as 5 to 10 minutes, and though that might not seem like much, you may be surprised at how beneficial meditation can be. The key is taking time from the daily frenzy of life and allowing yourself to focus on silence and stillness. There you have it, 5 powerful tips to help you beat loneliness during the holiday season. I hope you find these tips helpful and easy to implement so that loneliness is not a factor for you this holiday season. I'm Kristina Fecik, licensed marriage and family therapist at the Psychology Group Fort Lauderdale. To learn more about combating loneliness and other great topics, head to the psychologygroup.com blog. Thank you for watching.